Arthur Schopenhauer believed that women were nature's ultimate weapon against men, and he wasn't talking about physical strength. This 19th century philosopher, whose ideas influenced everyone from Nietzsche to Freud, wrote words about women so provocative that they're still sparking heated debates in universities today. But before you dismiss him as just another bitter philosopher, consider this. Schopenhauer's controversial stance was rooted in a sophisticated understanding of human nature, desire, and the biological imperatives that drive us all. What he discovered about the dynamics between men and women reveals uncomfortable truths that most people would rather ignore. Men throughout history have waged wars, raised empires from dust, and bent nations to their will. Yet time and again, the same men who crush enemies on the battlefield are crushed in silence by something far less obvious: their inability to understand women. This is the oldest riddle that kings, warriors, and philosophers have faced. A riddle that does not destroy with swords, but with whispers, glances, and unseen chains of desire. And today you face that same problem. Think carefully about your own life. How many men have you seen lose themselves completely, not because they lacked power, but because they gave it away in pursuit of a woman? How many have sacrificed ambition, vision, even dignity, because they believed that love, in its purest form, would save them? This is not weakness unique to one man. It is a trap built into the fabric of human nature. And unless you learn to see it clearly, it will devour you as surely as it devoured those who came before. The problem, my friend, is illusion. Men look at women and imagine them to be what they desire: an angel of loyalty, a muse of inspiration, a flawless partner destined to complete them. They project virtues onto her that she never claimed to have, virtues born from his longing rather than her reality. And when reality appears, when instinct speaks louder than fantasy, the man feels betrayed. But it is not betrayal. It is simply that he blinded himself with his own illusion. Schopenhauer observed this with brutal clarity. He saw that men, in their passion, often abandon their reason. They fail to understand that women are not bound by the same impulses as men. Their instincts are sharper, crafted not for lofty ideals, but for survival and advantage. And when a man cannot see this, when he treats instinct as purity, survival as devotion, he becomes a servant in a game he does not even know is being played. This is why so many men fall. They seek affection, but confuse it with permanence. They believe sacrifice will be rewarded with eternal loyalty, yet what they call loyalty is fragile and bound to circumstance. They place their trust in appearances, and appearances betray them. The tragedy is not that women are deceptive, but that men are eager to be deceived. They want the illusion because it feels sweeter than truth, and in chasing that sweetness, they give away their freedom. Do not mistake this for hatred, for that too is an illusion. The problem is not women, nor their nature, but man's blindness. The problem lies in his surrender, in his refusal to see things as they are. He kneels when he should stand. He pleads when he should observe. He allows his emotions to dictate his actions, and in doing so, he abandons his strength. This is the fatal flaw Schopenhauer sought to expose, the flaw that undoes conquerors and thinkers alike. Consider how many men imagine themselves rational and unshakable. They make decisions with precision, plan strategies with care, and guard their reputation as if it were gold. But the moment they are struck by desire, reason dissolves. They spend recklessly, they sacrifice time, they adjust their lives entirely for someone they barely know. And when the storm passes, they look upon the ruins and ask, "What happened to me?" What happened is simple: they chose illusion over truth, and they paid the price. This problem has persisted through every generation. The poet writes songs of eternal love. The merchant spends fortunes to win favor. The warrior risks life for a fleeting smile. None of this is new. What is new is your chance to break free from the cycle. Schopenhauer's words stand as a warning, a mirror held up to your nature. They reveal the uncomfortable truth that without vigilance, without awareness, you will repeat the same mistakes. And when you do, it will not be the world that conquers you. It will be your own blindness. So we must ask, why do men continue to fall for the same trap, century after century? Why does intelligence vanish in the face of desire? Because the problem is not intellect, but will. A man may know the truth, but if his will is enslaved by longing, he will abandon that truth in pursuit of comfort. He will convince himself that his case is different, that his woman is not like the rest, that his sacrifice will yield what others could not gain. And so, he falls with the same certainty as those before him. This is the disease Schopenhauer sought to expose, the endless surrender of man to the illusions he himself creates. And until you recognize it, you will not master yourself nor your destiny. Schopenhauer's view. When Schopenhauer spoke of women, he did not cloak his words in poetry or gallant praise. He spoke with the cold edge of a philosopher who prized truth over comfort, reality over illusion. His view was not meant to charm, but to awaken, and what he revealed unsettled many, for it shattered the flattering myths that men had built around women for centuries. He declared that women are not creatures of abstract reasoning, not seekers of truth in the same way men pursue philosophy or conquest. Instead, they are guided by instinct, by impulses woven into their very being. Their strength does not lie in lofty ideas or visions of eternity, but in the sharp, unrelenting drive for survival. And when you understand this, you see why their nature so often confounds the man who expects them to mirror his own. Schopenhauer looked at the world not as a dreamer, but as a dissector of human will. He saw that women, by design, are bound to the immediate, to the practical, to the instinct that ensures continuity of life. It is not malice that drives them, but necessity. To them, the future is not shaped by empires or philosophies, but by security, provision, and the unbroken chain of existence. Their instincts ensure that life itself does not falter, even if men collapse under their grand ambitions. What unsettles men is not that this nature exists, but that it often runs contrary to what men desire to believe. A man imagines that love is eternal, that loyalty is unshakable, that devotion is born from pure choice. Yet Schopenhauer cuts through this illusion. He tells us women are not motivated by such ideals. Their choices, their affections, even their loyalties, are colored by necessity, by instinct's whisper, by the survival of themselves and their offspring. To expect otherwise is to demand that fire not burn or water not flow. When a man fails to see this, he sets himself up for ruin. He believes that her actions are the result of the same principles that guide him: honor, reason, or abstract ideals. But she is not moved by those currents. Her current is practical, adaptive, often invisible to the man blinded by passion. And when her choices shift, when her loyalty bends, he cries betrayal. Yet Schopenhauer would remind him, it is not betrayal, it is nature fulfilling itself, just as it always has. This is why Schopenhauer warned men not to mistake instinct for philosophy. A woman may seem devoted, but devotion is not her natural aim. Her aim is survival, and everything is measured by how well it serves that aim. To demand that she act otherwise is to misunderstand the rules of the game. It is like blaming the wolf for hunting, or the tide for rising. She does not act against you, she acts for life itself. But if you do not see it, if you insist on illusions, you will interpret necessity as treachery, and you will suffer. Think of the countless men who poured their souls into love, believing they had secured something unshakable. Think of the poets who swore eternal devotion was theirs, the warriors who risked their lives for beauty, the rulers who placed empires in jeopardy for the affection of one woman. Schopenhauer would say they mistook survival's strategy for divine love. They believed in something that never existed, and their downfall was not written by women, but by their own blindness to reality. No, you may ask, why would Schopenhauer speak in such unforgiving terms? Why not soften his words or grant exceptions? Because he believed truth must be spoken without disguise. To him, the greatest crime against man was not cruelty, but illusion. And so he tore away the veil that society placed over women, a veil of idealization and worship, and forced men to look upon the raw mechanics of nature. What they found was not the angel they desired, the strategist of survival they refused to see. This view may sound harsh to the ears of those who crave comfort, but it carries a liberation for the man who dares to listen. If you understand that women are guided more by instinct than by lofty ideals, then you are no longer surprised when their choices shift with circumstances. You are no longer enslaved to disappointment because you no longer expect what was never there. You begin to see the world as it is, not as you wished it to be. And from this clarity comes strength born not from domination, but from awareness. Schopenhauer's view is not a curse upon women, but a mirror for men. It demands that you strip away fantasy, abandon the delusions that weaken you, and face reality with the eyes of a ruler, not a dreamer, for only then do you understand the true nature of the game being played. Power and strategy. If Machiavelli taught us that the prince must learn to be both lion and fox, Schopenhauer reminds us why this wisdom is necessary in the realm of women. For in the affairs of the heart, as in politics, power is not given. It is taken, it is guarded, it is wielded with strategy. The man who imagines that love exists outside the laws of power deceives himself, and it is this deception that leaves him vulnerable, conquered not by armies but by affections he cannot control. You see, when a man approaches women without strategy, he is like a ruler who opens the gates of his city to anyone who flatters him. He believes affection is enough, that good intentions will ensure loyalty, that sacrifice will secure permanence. But Schopenhauer strips this illusion bare. He shows us that women, guided by instinct, are sharper players of this game than men blinded by passion. They maneuver with subtlety, not always conscious of their own moves, but always with precision towards survival and advantage. To face such a force without strategy is to enter war with no weapons. Machiavelli told us that a ruler must know when to trust, when to deceive, when to strike, and when to retreat. The same applies here. The man who understands women must never abandon his reason to passion. He must observe as the strategist observes a rival court. What motivates her? What conditions shape her choice? Where is the ground firm? Where does it shift? This is not cynicism, it is clarity. For if you know her nature, you no longer gamble blindly, you play with foresight. Consider how often men hand over their power in the hope of securing affection. They neglect ambition, abandon friendships, squander wealth, all to prove devotion. But this is not strategy, it is surrender. And Schopenhauer reminds us that once a man surrenders his independence, he ceases to command respect. A prince who kneels before his own servants is no prince at all. Likewise, a man who kneels entirely before a woman, forsaking himself, is no longer a master of his destiny, but a pawn in hers. Strategy, then, is the art of balance. A man must give, but never all. He must love, but never blindly. He must commit, but never at the cost of his sovereignty. Machiavelli's prince keeps his people loyal by fear and love in careful proportion. So too must a man ensure that his presence commands respect, not merely desire. For desire fades, but respect anchors. Without respect, passion turns to contempt. What was once love becomes a weapon turned against him. Schopenhauer's view makes this even clearer. Since women are guided more by instinct than abstract ideals, they are drawn not to men who surrender power, but to men who wield it with certainty. The man who clings to her desperately, who abandons all else for her, reveals weakness. And instinct does not reward weakness. It consumes it. Just as Machiavelli warned that a weak ruler invites rebellion, Schopenhauer warns that a weak man invites manipulation, even if unconsciously. The strategy, then, is not to worship, but to govern. Govern yourself, govern your passions, and from this governance, govern the relationship. But let us not imagine this governance as cruelty. The prince who rules with only fear breeds hatred. The man who treats women with only cold detachment breeds distance. Strategy is not brutality, it is balance. To master strategy with women is to understand when to yield, and when to hold, when to speak, and when to remain silent, when to indulge affection, and when to withdraw it. This rhythm keeps balance alive, just as a ruler keeps the peace by alternating generosity with firmness. Think of the countless men who entered love with no strategy. At first, they were adored, admired, even pursued. But once they surrendered completely, once they revealed that nothing mattered to them more than her, the admiration decayed. She began to test, to push, to see how far his weakness would go. And when the test was complete, when it was clear that he would abandon all else for her, her respect died, and with it, her love. This was not malice. It was instinct, and Schopenhauer would remind you instinct does not respect slaves. Strategy, then, protects you. It keeps your power intact, your dignity unshaken, your reason unclouded. It ensures that you enter love as a ruler, not as a captive. Machiavelli taught that appearances matter more than reality in politics, so too in love. You must appear strong, composed, disciplined, even when desire burns within you. For once the appearance of weakness shows, instinct takes over, and the balance is lost. Schopenhauer's warning, paired with Machiavelli's counsel, forms a weapon sharper than any sword. It teaches you that love is not outside the realm of power, but within it. It teaches you that strategy is not cruelty, but survival. And it reminds you that to rule others, you must first rule yourself. For in the end, the man who masters strategy is never undone by love, strengthened by it, as a ruler is strengthened by loyal subjects, kept in balance by wisdom and fear. The warning. Schopenhauer did not merely observe the nature of women. He raised a warning, sharp and unflinching, to every man who would listen. His warning was not whispered gently, delivered like a hammer against the illusions that enslave men. For he saw the fate of countless men undone, not by war, not by poverty, not by enemies in the shadows, but by blind devotion to women. And he knew this truth must be spoken without disguise, because the danger is as real now as it was in his time. The warning is this: when you elevate women beyond their nature, when you worship them as goddesses instead of understanding them as human, you forfeit your strength. You become a servant, not a partner. And once you kneel, once you surrender your will, you are no longer a free man, you are governed, ruled not by reason, but by passion. Schopenhauer saw this as the greatest danger to men, not women themselves, but the blindness with which men approach them. Look closely at the world around you. How many men have abandoned ambition, purpose, and dignity for the promise of love? How many have given up their empire, their wealth, their friends, all to secure a devotion that could not endure? And how many have woken too late, finding themselves hollow, drained, betrayed, but most of all, ashamed of how willingly they gave away their power? This, Schopenhauer said, is the fate of those who mistake passion for truth. He warned that a man in the grip of blind devotion becomes pathetic, even to the woman he worships. She may enjoy his attention for a moment, but instinctively she loses respect for him. Just as a ruler despises the subject who bows too easily, a woman despises the man who has no strength of his own. She may not say it, but she feels it. And once respect dies, affection follows, and the man is left with nothing but chains he forged with his own hands. Machiavelli would agree with Schopenhauer here, for he too taught that weakness invites contempt. A prince who cannot govern himself, who appears desperate or dependent, is not loved. He is despised. The same law rules the private sphere of love. A man who abandons all for a woman, who dissolves into her shadow, cannot inspire lasting devotion. He inspires boredom, contempt, or worse, exploitation. And yet men time after time ignore this law, rushing headlong into slavery disguised as romance. Schopenhauer's warning is not hatred. It is protection. He does not say that women are enemies, but that the illusions men create around women are enemies. Illusions of eternal loyalty, illusions of divine purity, illusions that love can exist without power, without respect, without strategy. These illusions make a man weak, and weakness is always punished, whether in politics or in love. The man who ignores this warning invites ruin, and ruin always comes when strength is surrendered. Consider history. How many rulers, warriors, and thinkers have fallen not by the sword, but by devotion? Empires weakened because leaders placed love above duty. Fortune squandered because men placed passion above reason. Legacies destroyed because men placed illusion above truth. Schopenhauer's warning echoes across centuries. Do not let desire undo what discipline built. Do not trade your sovereignty for affection, for once it is gone, it rarely returns. The danger lies in the fact that passion disguises itself as virtue. A man in love tells himself he is noble, selfless, loyal. He convinces himself that sacrifice proves strength, when in truth, sacrifice without strategy proves weakness. He kneels, and he calls it devotion. He abandons himself, and he calls it romance. But Schopenhauer strips this mask away, declaring it for what it is: surrender. And surrender, once given, cannot easily be reclaimed. This is the heart of his warning. Passion, if ungoverned, is slavery, and slavery breeds contempt. The woman does not respect the man who drowns himself in her. She tests him, she bends him, she pushes the limits of his weakness until he becomes unrecognizable even to himself. And when she leaves, or when her affection wanes, the man is left shattered, not because she deceived him, but because he deceived himself. He believed illusion instead of reality, and reality always takes its revenge. Schopenhauer warns you because he knows the cost of blindness. He warns you because he sees that men are quick to surrender their will when confronted with beauty, quick to trade power for affection, quick to abandon clarity for comfort. And he warns you because once this surrender is made, the man is no longer master of himself. He is ruled, not ruling. He is led, not leading. And his destiny, once in his hands, is given away like a beggar handing over his last coin. The solution. Schopenhauer gave his warning, but he did not leave men abandoned in despair. He did not strip illusions away only to leave you standing in emptiness. No, his philosophy, harsh as it may seem, offers a path to strength. He reveals the disease so that you might recognize the cure. And the cure lies not in hatred, nor in blind surrender, but in clarity. The solution is to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. For only when you see clearly can you act wisely. The first step of the solution is brutal honesty with yourself. You must recognize that women, like men, are bound to their nature. They are guided by instinct, by necessity, by the practical demands of survival. Expecting them to act otherwise is the root of male suffering. Do not ask fire not to burn, or the sea not to swell, and do not ask women to live outside their instincts. To demand that they be angels, untouched by nature, is to set yourself up for disillusionment. The solution begins when you abandon fantasy, when you look upon women without the veil of idealization and you see them as they are. But awareness alone is not enough. Machiavelli would remind you that knowledge must be paired with strategy. Once you see clearly, you must act with discipline. You must govern yourself as a ruler governs his court, with vigilance and with order. Do not let passion overthrow reason. Do not let desire cloud judgment. When you feel the pull of obsession, the urge to surrender everything, remind yourself, the solution is not to fall into slavery, but to remain master of your will, for a man who rules himself cannot be ruled by another. This self-mastery is not coldness, it is strength. To govern your emotions does not mean to reject love or closeness. It means you control when to give and when to hold back. It means you decide how far to bend and when to remain unshaken. A ruler does not abolish pleasure from his court, but he ensures pleasure never governs him. Likewise, a man does not flee from women, but he ensures that his devotion never strips him of dignity. The solution is not withdrawal, balance. And balance requires respect. Respect not as a gift begged for, but as a force commanded by your strength. When you live with clarity, when you pursue your ambition, when you remain sovereign in your actions, respect follows. Schopenhauer saw that women instinctively gravitate toward strength, toward certainty, toward men who do not crumble under passion. And it is this respect, not desperate affection, that sustains relationships. Passion rises and falls, but respect endures. And respect is only granted to those who respect themselves first. So the solution is double-edged: to accept women's nature and to fortify your own. You must never despise them for acting according to instinct, for instinct is their strength. Instead, you must anchor yourself so firmly in reality that their shifting affections cannot uproot you. You must remain unshaken when circumstances change because you expected them to. You must remain sovereign when passion tempts you to kneel because you have chosen clarity over illusion. In this way, you transform love from a chain that binds into a force that sharpens. Imagine two men. The first lives in illusion. He believes she is pure loyalty, eternal devotion, and when she acts according to instinct, he collapses, crying betrayal. He gave his will away, and when she no longer mirrors his fantasy, he becomes broken. The second man lives in clarity. He knows her nature, and he knows his. He does not surrender his purpose for her, neither does he despise her. He gives affection wisely, guarded by discipline. When she shifts, he does not shatter. He stands firm, and in his firmness, she respects him. This second man embodies the solution. He has accepted reality, and so he cannot be conquered by it. Schopenhauer's solution, then, call to mastery. Not mastery over women, but mastery over yourself. For when you master yourself, illusions lose their hold. You do not idealize, and so you are not betrayed. You do not surrender blindly, and so you are not enslaved. You do not despise reality, and so you are not broken by it. Instead, you walk through life as a man of clarity, commanding respect, guarding your will, and wielding love as one tool among many, never as a master that owns you. And here lies the final truth: the solution is not to change women, but to change your perception. You cannot alter instinct, but you can alter how you respond to it. You cannot demand loyalty eternal, but you can demand of yourself dignity eternal. You cannot build a fantasy and expect it to survive reality, but you can strip illusion away and build strength in its place. This is the solution Schopenhauer left. You the freedom that comes when you abandon fantasy, embrace reality, and stand as a man who rules himself above all. You have now heard the message Schopenhauer left behind, stripped of illusion and spoken with the sharpness of a blade. The problem is clear: men lose themselves because they refuse to see women as they are. The view is clear: women act by instinct, and to demand otherwise is to live in fantasy. The strategy is clear: govern yourself as a prince governs his realm, never surrendering your sovereignty. The warning is clear: blind devotion turns men into slaves, and slaves are despised, never respected. And the solution is clear: abandon fantasy, embrace reality, and master yourself above all. The choice then falls to you. Will you walk the path of those who surrendered their power, who placed illusion above truth, and fell into ruin? Or will you take Schopenhauer's message as your weapon, stand as master of your will, and rule your destiny with eyes unclouded? The world does not forgive weakness in politics nor in love. Strength is demanded of you, and strength begins with clarity. Remember this: respect is only given to those who command it, and command begins not with others, but with yourself.